Hello and welcome to Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio. This is Stefan, your host, British by birth, American by choice. The Founding Fathers crafted some remarkable documents that led to the creation of a great country founded on liberty and self-reliance. I have lived in the Euro-socialist nightmare, and I'm doing what I can to return this country to the vision that the Founding Fathers gave us. We need to strive to rebuild that shining city on the hill, for without us, the world has nowhere to turn for freedom. For the next hour, I will be presenting news, views, and guests that help keep the true spirit of America alive. And good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whenever you're listening to the show. This is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, British by birth and American by choice, proud American by choice. Coming to you with episode 222, that's right, 222 of Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio. I want to thank you for joining me tonight, whether you're joining me live, whether you're going to be participating in the chat room, or whether you're listening to the recordings via one of the many channels that has them, or if you're listening to the read broadcasts on some of the other stations. Red State Talk Radio is the big one, of course, and some of the terrestrial stations that actually rebroadcast the Red State Talk Radio feed, and we'll get to those stations a little bit later in the show. Just a reminder of where you can hear this show without a computer. Anyway, big night tonight, of course, the runoff in Mississippi, and last time I looked, it looked as if Thad Cochran, the doddering old senator there, had pulled it off and managed to squeak back in. Of course, the left and the right-wing establishment will be crowing tomorrow because Thad Cochran got in, T.W. Shannon was defeated. But especially in Mississippi, Thad Cochran and the GOP were forced to spend millions, and they're winning by less than 1%. And as I said before, even if the Tea Party candidates don't win, the fact that they're taking it so close to the line should open some eyes in Washington and in the rest of the country. The Tea Party, folks, is not dead. We are very much alive, and we're going to lose some, we're going to win some, but don't give up hope. And we're not dead, even though the GOP is doing its best to kick us to death. And it's really the GOP we're fighting. We don't even have to fight the Democrats. I mean, this is just absolutely ridiculous. But there you are. Okay, number of different topics tonight, and we'll be getting later to. I've got some commentary on the whole IRS thing. Been watching that over the last few days, of course, and I think the folks in Washington and a lot of the right-wing press are going about this in the wrong way, and give you some ideas on that. But in the meanwhile, let's look at some other things. And I want to start here with my old home of Florida. In Florida, Governor Scott signed 5 pro-gun bills into law. And now Scott has signed more pro-gun bills into law in one term than any other governor in Florida history. So you can see that he is pro-Second Amendment. The key, the 5 that went in: threatened use of force, which basically allows people to brandish a gun in self-protection. Right now, that is not permitted. In actual fact, the Stand Your Ground law basically relates to shooting someone who's in your home. But if you just wave a gun at them to encourage them to leave the home, then you can be, you can get indicted for that. And even worse, and this bill is also known as the warning shots law, although it's not really intended for that. It came about because a woman fired some warning shots when her estranged abusive husband, was trying to basically to attack her, break into her house, and she fired warning shots. She didn't want to kill him, she just wanted to frighten him off. But basically, under the law, with the current law, the 10, 20, 30 law, she was basically without option, no judicial option. The judge had to give her 10 years in prison for that. And so this law now overturns that and makes it possible to either brandish a gun or even fire warning shots, even if you feel that you are threatened. And then there are other ones, stopping discrimination against gun owners. There are things in the current laws, but they needed to be tightened up. A zero tolerance Pop-Tart bill, and this I think is a very good one. A common sense bill, which says a child eating a Pop-Tart into a shape of a gun does not fall under the zero tolerance for weapons thing at school. So that's now law. Fast-tracking concealed weapons and firearms licenses. Of course, the pro-gun control people are crying out, well, now more people will have guns. I don't think that's true at all. Well, more people will have guns because you can get them quicker, but more bad people will have guns because there's less checks. I don't think there's that at all. It's just kind of codifying how information is collected and should be processed quickly, and prevents jurisdictions from also imposing their own form of gun control by slowing down the process. And also protection of concealed weapons and license holder information, so we don't get things like they had in New York where names and addresses were being published. However, a very important bill was defeated. And this is this was SB 296, HB 209 in Florida. And basically this was to allow law-abiding citizens to carry their firearms with them during a mandatory evacuation under a declared state of emergency, rather than leaving them in their homes for theft by looters or destruction by hurricanes or other disasters. Now, the Florida Sheriff's Association and numerous anti-gun sheriffs fought to kill the bill. They were not very successful because the representatives decided that the people's safety and rights are above what the anti-gun sheriffs want. However, in the Senate, Senator Jack Latvala became the champion of the Florida Sheriff's Association. Probably some contributions to his campaign helped there. And he went around and drummed up some support amongst a number of Republican senators, and of course any left-wing senators were going along with this anyway, and the bill got killed. So now, if there is a mandatory evacuation, Floridians, remember, you are not allowed to take your guns with you. Well, here's an idea for you, by the way. Lock them up. Get one of those little gun safes that can go in your car. Make sure it's got a cable so it can be secured to the car. It can't be taken out. Lock it up. And then if you get stopped and they find it and they want to arrest you for it, claim the Safe Passage Act. The Safe Passage Act allows you to take guns from one jurisdiction to another and cross jurisdictions where guns are not legal, as long as you are going to a jurisdiction where they are legal and you do not have the gun available to you in immediate availability. So it needs to be locked in the trunk or under the seat in a safe like that it can't be quickly accessed, and you might be able to get around that. So homework for you folks. And The homework is to remember the names of the Republican senators who, and some of them are coming up for election in November. Remember their names, and you may want to think about voting for someone else. So I mentioned already Senator Jack Latvala. He's Senate District 20. Charlie Dean, Florida Senate District 5. Nancy Deteret, Senate District 28. Miguel Diaz de la Portilla, Senate District 40. Rene Garcia, Senate District 38. Denise Grimsley, Senate District 21. Alan Hayes, Senate District 11. John Legg, Senate District 17. And Garrett Richter, Senate District 23. Floridians, check if any of those senators are in your district, and when the time comes in November or in 2016, remember their names and see if you can find a good alternative for them. We need to teach these anti-gun folks they should stop trifling with us. Okay, let's see. Next topic, and here's a little thing about why Dear Leader has not yet been impeached. A lot of talk about impeachment, but let's face it, quite frankly, and especially while Dingy Harry's in charge of the Senate, but even after we win it in 2014, unless we really get 66 seats, we're not going to be able to do anything about impeachment anyway. But here's some reasons why. And the commentator that wrote this said that you know that Obama did something illegal when Bill Maher says Obama did do it illegally. Right? So when someone on the left says it, then it must be true. Not that they bother about it. Then you know it doesn't matter to them if he does something that's illegal. It's just important that he does it, right? Just so long as it's Obama, just so long as it's the left doing. You know, whoa. If any Republican tries to do anything illegal, then they'll be all over it. But if it's Obama, he can get away with whatever he wants. And, you know, we've got a long list of violations of the law and the Constitution that Obama and his regime have done. So why isn't he being held accountable? Well, first of all, the left's never going to take one of their own to task for breaking the law. And as I said, the left holds power in the Senate, which is where impeachment really ends up. So, you know, breaking the rule of law, that doesn't matter just as long as you do what you want. But then why hasn't the media? Well, we know why the media hasn't, because they're just as much in bed with the left wing as the rest, or the majority of the general public and a majority of the Republicans been calling for Obama's head. And the writer says the answer is very simple. Because he is the first black president of the United States. Well, let me say one thing, folks. First of all, he is not black. He's half black. Let's be honest, he's mulatto. But anyway, because he's perceived as being the first black president, it's going to be very difficult to have him impeached. So all we can do is clip his wings in November, and then in 2016, let's make sure that we don't have a repeat of Obama, and maybe even a worse repeat, by having our dear friend Hillary take over. Now, this commentator says Obama's well-schooled in using race. He realized early on that white people in particular would fawn all over a well-spoken man of color who has presidential aspirations. What happened? The white, guilt-ridden liberals fawned over a well-spoken man of color and helped him with his presidential aspirations. He said all the right things. He talked about healing the country, calming the seas, and making this United States rather blue or red states. And what has it ended up? it's ended up with the most divisive country that we have seen in years. This is just absolutely unbelievable. It's even worse, I think, than in the 60s. Now, I wasn't here in the 60s, so I can't judge, but I think it was probably a lot worse than then. Okay, folks, I see the clock has been ticking. It's time for our first commercial break, so stick with me, and I will be back after these messages.
Are you paying too much for your car insurance policy? Have you shopped your current plan in the last year? If you haven't, then you probably are paying too much. You could save up to 40% on your current car insurance coverage just by making a free call right now. Doesn't it make good sense to pay less for something you have to pay for anyway? And car insurance is one of those things. You got to have car insurance, whether you have one car or 10 cars. So why not see if you can pay a lot less for it right now? One quick 3-minute call and you could save hundreds of dollars on your car insurance. We'll compare the leading car insurance companies and get you coverage that could save you up to 40% on your car insurance. Call now for a free quote. Call 800-603-9980. 800-603-9980. 800-603-9980. 800-603-9980. That's 800-603-9980.
Are you tired of commuting to a job that makes someone else rich? Working harder than ever, but getting nowhere? Do you hate spending hundreds of dollars every week on daycare? Having someone else raise your children? With our opportunities, you can start earning money as soon as next week. You get to be the boss, work from home, and live a happier life. At Be the Boss Network, you'll find hundreds of work-from-home opportunities that you can literally start today and be earning money as soon as next week. Go to freedom112.com and start earning money as soon as next week. You get to be the boss. Get out of the rat race. Work from home. Go to freedom112.com right now and change your life today. That's freedom112.com. Go to freedom112.com and start earning money as soon as next week. You be the boss. Go to freedom112.com.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRS-TV, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us. And thanks for sticking with me through that break. You're listening to Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, and we're talking about all sorts of things. I'd like to next move, before I go to my commentary, and maybe one or two other topics, maybe do that after the bottom of the hour. But before that, I'd like to reference a very good post by the Talkmaster. Those of you that listen to talk radio may remember Neil Bort, who retired a while back, but he's still posting a blog called Neil's News, NEALZNUZE. I think it's published at WSBradio.com, and I can thoroughly encourage you to go there because, you know, his clarity of vision about what's going on in politics and in the world is reflected in those posts. And I wanted to reference one of them, and so encourage you to read the whole post. But Neil decided that he needs to do something about all the hype right now being paid to Hillary Clinton. As he starts the article off, he says, the 2016 presidential election is a year and a half off, but you would think the election is going to be held next Tuesday if you judged by the media obsession with Hillary. Now, she wrote a book recently, Hard Choices, which is tanking. I think the last number I heard was about 84,000 have been sold. And he goes on to say, well, it'll probably end up in the bargain box at Costco. Costco loves Obama and the Clintons. It's a very progressive company, so that's a little hint for you there about where you do your shopping. Avoid Costco, in other words. But if you do go to Costco's and pick up that book at the discount table, you can probably look at it and say you've saved yourself a huge amount of money. And why is that, you say, Stefan? Well, let's think about it. I heard that Hillary had been given about a $14 million advance on the book. To date, the registered sales are about 84,000. Well, I did a quick calculation, and if you just include Hillary's advance, and that's without the costs of printing, the editing, the marketing, and everything else that goes on there, but just on the cost of Hillary's advance, the book should be costing $166. So you're going to pick it up for $9.95 at Costco. I think that's a pretty good discount. That might be, if you wanted a copy of the book, that might be a good excuse just to go into Costco and pick up a copy of the book just because you get it so cheaply. Now, of course, $14 million, and we've been hearing all these stories about how poor the Clintons actually are. And, they pay normal taxes like everybody else. Yeah, it's normal taxes. What they're trying to do is differentiate themselves from all the really rich people that they would more than love to be. But they're trying to differentiate from them because most of those people live off their capital gains and so pay a very different tax because tax has already been paid on what went into the capital gains generating capital. But she says, no, we have just normal income, so we pay normal income tax. Yeah, normal income tax on $50 million, $100 million a year between her and Slick Willie. Are they poor? Yeah, right. And but they're trying to give this meme of being, for the poor people, being equal to the poor people. Yet another lie. And so Neil said he wants to remind us about a few things about Hillary Clinton. He had just started out as a talk show host during the Clinton era. He was on the air during the entire era, and he also interacted with the Clintons at something called the Renaissance Weekends in Hilton Head. These were quite famous when Bill was in the White House. Now, like any of these sort of hobnobbing with the famous, the rich and famous, the rules are, and he says he will honor them, what's said at the Renaissance stays at the Renaissance. No quoting. However, he does say Bill was universally loved, and Talkmaster's interaction with him, as well as those of the Queen, were very positive. We felt firsthand that legendary Clinton charm. Hillary, about as charming as a proctologist wielding a curling iron. And Neil's wife, who he calls the Queen, actually worked with her on a small specific project. And although he can't quote his wife, he can just say that she was far less than thrilled over her interactions with this lady. So Neil says, cold fish, not at all what she seems to be, but let's think about two very specific things that went on in her life. So let's start with the first one. And it is 20 years ago, but the left were very good at dragging up stuff about Romney during his high school time. So why shouldn't we go back a couple of years for the Hildebeest? And Hillary Care. So Hillary Care, Democrats had dreamed for years of bringing health care under government control. Because as you know, control the people's health care, you control that person. That's what Obamacare is all about. However, in 1993, when the Democrats had both the White House and both houses of Congress, Bill Clinton told the Hildebeest, come up with a national health care plan. A secretive committee was formed. That sounds familiar. A bit like Obamacare. Secretive committees there all around as well. And the work began. The eventual plan was called the Health Care Security Act. Oh, bringing in those words security, are we? Well, right. If it's not security, then it's affordable. Now, one Republican asked Hillary if her plan didn't tread on individual rights, and she made the classic remark, We have to stop worrying about the rights of the individual and start worrying about what's good for the country. So that shows you where her heart is. Now, Neil says when Hillary Care was introduced, he went to the government printing office in Atlanta, took a copy. He was at that time still a practicing lawyer and doing a talk show, so he thought it would be a good idea to read the whole thing. And he lifts out one very specific point of the law that he says is so draconian. If that had come in, that would have been absolutely a disaster. It was Hillary's intention that the government was going to have an absolute lock on every American's health care. Whether you wanted a splinter removed or heart bypass surgery, you were going to go through the approved Health Security Act system to find the government-approved doctor to provide the care. And listen how tight that control was. If you were displeased with the government scheme and you decided to find a doctor on your own to provide you with medical services, and if the doctor agreed to provide those services in exchange for a private payment for you from outside of the plan, so this is just person to person, totally private, but both you and the doctor could be prosecuted for a crime, fined or sent to jail, or both. Now, how draconian is that? Anyway, it was so overdone, so heavy-handed attempt to control American health care, Hillary Care failed. But as you see, Obamacare came pretty close to that. Instead of now making it illegal to do any private things, they just say, well, you can do that, but we're going to fine you for not having a plan, not having insurance. So then we come to another hot topic of the day, lost emails. Well, how about lost billing records? And Neil wants to remind us about that. That is the other thing. Now here, just very quickly, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but basically, at the time, Slick Willie was governor of Arkansas. His wife was there. She had got fired from the House Judiciary Committee during the investigation of Watergate. She'd got fired by Jeffrey Seifman. He was a dedicated Democrat, but even so, he fired Hillary, and he refused to give her a letter of recommendation. When someone asked Seifman why he fired Hillary, he said, because she was a liar. She was an unethical, dishonest lawyer. She conspired to violate the Constitution, the rules of the House, the rules of the committee, and the rules of confidentiality. Think about that, folks. Do you really want that kind of person in the White House leading this country? But there's more. So, Hillary was out of a job. Slick Willie was he wasn't governor, he was attorney general. So, a law firm in Arkansas, in Little Rock, thought it'd be a good idea to have the attorney general's wife on their staff. So she was hired, and when he became governor, Hillary all of a sudden found herself with a partnership in the firm. Now, there was around about that time, we also had the savings and loan debacle all over the country. And there was a savings and loan bank in Arkansas called Madison that was involved with a local fraud called Whitewater. You've probably heard Whitewater in connection with the Clintons. Well, the committee in D.C. investigating the savings and loan said it'd be a good idea if we can see how much time this wife of the governor spent on the Whitewater documents, because this would give us an idea of if there's any impropriety. But there was a problem. Hillary couldn't find the records. Neither could the Rose Law Firm. Golly gee, they just seemed to disappear. Nobody could figure it out. They were just gone, just like the emails. Now, this went on for a couple of years. Nobody could find these billing records. And so the subpoena to produce them for the committee on the Hill Didn't happen. And then one day, a low-level staffer was cleaning up in the Clintons' private living quarters in the White House. And guess what? There, in Hillary's private living quarters, were the missing Rose Law firm billing records. And worse than that, they had Hillary's handwriting all over them. So now we see Hillary Clinton had been lying to an investigative committee for over 2 years in denying those records ever existed. So have we had enough of presidents that intentionally lie and will even do so under oath to protect themselves? So as Neil says, a reminder of who this woman is, really is, and let's make sure she doesn't get in. But at this point, it's still a year and a half. What difference does it make? Okay, folks, I see the clock has continued to tick. It's time for the next commercial break. I'll be right back.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-865-5017. That's 1-800-865-5017. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-865-5017 for details.
Why spend more than you have to on your life insurance? Did you know that term life insurance rates have fallen over 60% in the last 15 years? At the Life Insurance Quote Line, we monitor the rates, features, and financial strength of hundreds of life insurance products. For example, a healthy 40-year-old can protect his family with $500,000 of 10-year level term for less than $20 a month. Rates for women are even lower. And don't forget to ask us about the new term life policies that guarantee your money back even if you don't die. Since 1986, we've helped tens of thousands of people just like you save a fortune on their life insurance. Why not find out how much you can save? Write down this number and call today for your free quote. 1 5-minute call is all it takes. Call 800-915-9734. 800-915-9734. That's 800-915-9734. Rates, policy forms, and availability vary by state.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us. And thank you for sticking with me through that break. We're into the second half of the show. In a moment, I'm going to give you my commentary on the IRS and why I think that a lot of the people who are investigating this and analyzing this are looking at the wrong things. But before I do that, just a reminder of the terrestrial station. So it isn't just the internet that you can listen to Patrick Come Lately. You can also catch the show on real radio stations. The list right now is WJNW AM 1650 in Hermitage, Tennessee. We have Talk Radio AM 1620 KTFL in Gilbert, Arizona. WMQL Radio FM 105.5 Brevard, North Carolina, and Kaufman County Talk Radio AM 1680 KCTR in Terrell, Texas. So catch the Red State Talk Radio feed there, and Patrick Come Lately goes out, I think, four times during the week on Red State Talk Radio. The last schedule I looked at, and Primo does occasionally change the schedule, but the last one I looked at was 6 a.m. Eastern Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern Thursday, 12 p.m., so midday Friday, again, Eastern Time, and 3 a.m. in the morning Monday. So now, Those terrestrial radio stations don't broadcast Red State Talk Radio all the time, but if they're broadcasting the feed in any of those periods that I just mentioned, then you will be able to hear Patrick Come Lately over the normal radio waves. And again, a request, if you like the show, please do let your friends know. And if you like the show, if you like the topics, you've got comments or questions, here's what you can do to actually connect with me, especially if you're not live and not able to get into the chat room. Use email or other means of getting hold of me as described in this quick little jingle.
If you would like to comment on any of the topics discussed on the show, please email me via stephan@patriotcomelately.us or go to the show's website, www.patriotcomelately.us, and click on the contact button. You can also write your comments on the show's Facebook page. Just search in Facebook for the Patriot Come Lately Show.
And I do love hearing from my listeners, so you know, please do contact me as described there. Comments, questions, whatever, requests for topics in a future show. Love to hear from you. And that break gave me a quick opportunity to have a quick sip. Tonight, no adult beverages. Hate to admit it, but I'm actually partially incapacitated at the moment. Regular listeners will know, a few months ago we moved into the new house up here in north of Atlanta, in Georgia. Loving the house, but of course a lot of things to do around the house, and about 10 days ago I started doing some things which required moving some very heavy stuff around, and started some problems with my back, which got worse and worse and worse, and right now I have a very bad sciatica. In actual fact, so bad I was having an MRI today, and I couldn't even stay still long enough for the MRI, so all sorts of problems, but I'm on all sorts of drugs, and it means no adult beverages at the moment, which is very much a pain in the you-know-where, which I already have anyway. Anyway, commentary for tonight. I want to talk about the IRS, and I really wanted, I hope people will listen to this, and I may even put this up on my blog, because I think people are missing a lot of points in all of the discussions that I see going on. Now, things, have been bubbling along for quite a time, but I have to say the last few days, things got pretty heated because the new commissioner, who's been in there for a number of months now, Koskinen, a political appointee, by the way, a friend of Obama, contributed a lot to the Democrats, anyway, the discussion continues, and he was in the hot seat, and he was being grilled. He was being grilled in the most unfriendly fashion, especially the last couple of days. Thank goodness, finally, the Republicans really getting some backbone and starting to really do some good stuff there. And I said he was being grilled in the most unfriendly fashion, but I think, to be honest, he deserved every minute of it. Because seeing how he arrogantly refused to apologize, he was parroting party talking points, and had general absence of any remorse whatsoever. It was just absolutely. It was such a bad show for this department, I think. His whole attitude actually really showed how much of a party hack he actually is. And that is obviously not a grand old party hack, is it? And this really is something that's totally unacceptable. Because let's face it, if there's one government department that should not be partisan, it is the IRS. There is a second one that I would put on pretty much the same level. It's the Department of Justice, or as I like to call it right now, the Department of Injustice, because it too is very much politicized, but that's something else. But the current regime has so corrupted and intertwined the political and administrative structures that it's going to take us years to untangle the mess that has been created. In many cases, because of all the arcane rules preventing government employees from being fired, even when caught perpetrating fraud and corruption. So you can do the most heinous things, you're not going to get fired because of those arcane civil service union rules. So, can we do anything about it? Yes. What we have to do is defund and get rid of the relevant department. Defund it is one way of doing it, maybe not get rid of it. With the IRS, we could get rid of it if we institute the fair tax. For the DOJ, we could defund huge parts of it. And then it's very simple to say, okay, we don't have the money. Last in, first out. And of course, the most recent people in most cases, are going to be the political appointees. And that's one way to clean it up. And that will bypass these stupid civil service rules. And let's put these people where they belong, out in the real world, where they have to do a real job for a living, instead of a cushy job requiring little effort, where they're getting high wages and have little risk of losing the job. But anyway, that's something else. Let's go back to the IRS. Now, if you look at the TV, especially Fox, if you listen to the radio, the talk show hosts, and the subcommittees in DC, everybody seems to be focusing on the emails lost off of Lois Lerner's PC. They're asking the person at the top, Koskinen, why, and he comes up with these admittedly plausible but unlikely scenarios. Because he is so many levels away from the actual activities, he's even assuming plausible deniability. In other words, when proof surfaces that count as anything he had said earlier, he just utters, well, I couldn't have known that. And that's it. So although the GOP committee members tear into him and give him a really tough time, you can see he knows that the White House and their lackeys and cronies and the lamestream media have his back, because he just shrugs it off. Even Trey Gowdy, who was probably the most aggressive, I think that was yesterday, but he seemed to elicit very little in contrition from this pompous ass. I applaud Trey Gowdy for his attacks, and I hope that this is a sample of the fireworks we'll see when he chairs the select committee to investigate the IRS. And let's have Trey Gowdy for AG in the next administration. I think he'd be great there. However, I hope that his select committee will also take a slightly different tack in uncovering the truth. Let's just suppose that Lerner's machine did actually have a hard drive crash. It's plausible. And let's assume that the server backup tapes are overwritten after 6 months. As I said, this is plausible, but unlikely. So what we could then do, we can subpoena all the possible recipients of such emails, DOJ, Treasury, White House, etc., since surely they will not have had hard drive crashes themselves. But don't hold your breath, folks. I don't expect the current regime to help. And instead of talking to the party hack at the top, call in the IT experts and the low-level people and determine what the current procedures are for backing up the emails. Are they correct? Were they properly executed? If not, why not? Why weren't they properly executed? Who ordered the divergence from the protocols? Now, this would lessen the impact of the loss of the emails because it points perhaps to an obvious attempt to destroy probably incriminating evidence. If we can get evidence that somebody stopped the backups and deliberately wanted to do that, that was for a reason. And then we could infer from that that it was to cover up incriminating evidence. Don't forget, there are federal laws that stipulate how long documents, including emails, have to be kept. And that actually came up in testimony on the Hill today. Right? Why were these laws not obeyed at the IRS? The committee asked, did the IRS break the law? The people responsible from the archivists from the whatever Department of Records or whatever it is, would not say that they'd actually broken the law, but they did say they had not followed the law. Okay, so technicality. Followed, broken, same thing. Anyway, and so they have these laws, how long documents, including emails, have to be kept, right? So first of all, let's get the truth from the low-level grunts. What did you do? Why did you not back up? Did you back up? Was there a procedure? Was it followed? And then we can go back to the top, and then they have no wiggle room left, and let's see them worm their way out of that. Now, so we can perhaps determine the likelihood of existence of incriminating evidence without actually having it. So, proving it through circumstantial evidence. In another way as well, and this is the area where I think that the people are missing out, the talking heads, the TV, and the committee are missing out on something very important. But before we go there, I see it's time for a quick station break, so I will be back right after these messages again.
Are you at least 62 years old like me? Could you use an extra $50,000, $100,000 or more to live a better life? Then please consider the benefits a reverse mortgage can provide to you. With a reverse mortgage, you can have your mortgage payments stopped altogether and get equity out of your home to live on. And you can use the money to help you live a better life. How nice would that be, not to have a mortgage payment? Qualifying for a reverse mortgage is simple, since there are no income, asset, employment, or credit requirements. However, you must be 62 years or older, own your home outright, or have a very low balance on the mortgage, and be prepared to live in it throughout the rest of the loan. Call now for more information.
800-704-1662. 800-704-1662. 800-704-1662. That's 800-704-1662.
I will never forget the day my son Jeremy told me he hated me and slammed the door in my face. I'm behavioral therapist Janet Lehman. Behavior problems can turn the child you love and your life into a nightmare. That's why my husband James and I created the Total Transformation, the step-by-step program that shows you how to fix the worst behavior problems and get your child to respect and listen to you again. No matter what the behavior, defiance, backtalk, angry outbursts, disrespect, we can help you stop it. Now you can get the Total Transformation for free. All you need to do is get the program and let us know how it works for you. You can keep it forever for free.
Limited number of free programs available. Call now. 1-800-259-1409. 1-800-259-1409. 1-800-259-1409. That's 1-800-259-1409.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us. And welcome back. We're into the final segment of the show. I was talking on my commentary on the IRS scandal, and basically the fact that I think the talking heads on radio, the TV, and the committee members themselves seem to be missing a very profitable avenue, I believe, for proving that there is skullduggery in the loss of the emails. So everybody's been focusing on Lois Lerner's loss. And I think that's wrong. I think we can prove, like I said, that there was incriminating evidence through circumstantial evidence. So what we have to do, we have to subpoena the lower level IT specialist, find out if the procedures were applied correctly, and if not, why not, who told them not to, etc., etc. But on top of that, now, and here's the thing that people don't seem to be spending a lot of time on. There were 6 other people who also had hard drive crashes at around the same time as Lois Lerner's, and they're all people involved in the investigation. Now, it reeks. Of course it reeks. But right? This society, you are innocent till proven guilty, so let's gather the evidence. And the evidence, while we have those IT specialists there, ask the question, okay, in that period, let's say the same 6 to 8 week time period when all of these hard drive crashes were logged, how many other hard drive crashes were logged? Maybe it was hundreds, right? Koskinen, the commissioner, claims they've all got such antiquated equipment, it's always breaking down. Maybe there were hundreds. That would make then this thing that those 6 as well had hard drive crashes. It could become more plausible. We wouldn't have the evidence that we wanted. But let's suppose it's it's just 6, or it's 8 or 10 or 12, a small number. So now all of a sudden a very large number of people involved in the investigation are having hard drive crashes, which is not really the norm. Then we can say, yes, we can smell a rat. Then it's obvious that the regime has something to hide. Now, of course, having seen Trey Gowdy in action over the last couple of days, I'm sure the regime is knowing what to expect. So they're going to be scrambling to cover all the bases, or should I say crash all the hard drives and overwrite the backup tapes, etc., etc. And they'll probably have the time to do it, unfortunately. So, will they do that? I don't know. Maybe I'm just inflating my own self-importance by thinking the regime is listening to my broadcasts. Who knows? Well, we've got a couple of minutes to the end of the show, and I still had topics I wanted to talk about. The mess on the border. I think I'm going to just quickly go to one thing on there. I may come back to the other because I still think there's things to be discussed there. I mean, it is just absolutely unbelievable what's going on there. And I don't know if you listen to Glenn Beck, he's actually put a call out to say, let's just ignore the government. And he wants to get his Mercury One group down there and just helping these people, not to help them into America, but to help them where they are, because the conditions are really bad. But anyway, I saw an example of what we could do, put forward by that great activist from Florida, Diane Sori, and she said there is a solution to all the people being dumped into Arizona, because of course the ICE is busing the people into Arizona, and we all know why they chose Arizona for that. But it's a solution that also could be applied in Texas, California, and any and all of the states with illegal problems as well. And all it would do is cost a one-way bus ticket to either, Governor Brewer for Arizona or any of the other states. And all they should do is do exactly what ICE has been doing. Load the illegals up on buses and ship them off to D.C. and dump them on the White House doorstep. And let Obama look after it. Let Obama do everything there. Well, whether or not that's actually going to happen, I doubt it. But that would be a really good way to do things. I'd love to see that happening. And, of course, a couple of shows ago, I think I said as well, and the other thing I think that Governor Brewer should do is send out the National Guard or the Highway Patrol, stop the buses at the Arizona border, turn them back to Texas, and let ICE work it out in Texas. But whether or not they're actually going to do that, I'm not sure. So we're getting to the end of the show, folks. Just a reminder, if you enjoyed the show, please do tell your friends. Really enjoy doing this, but we need to get the message out as well. And, come back next week. We'll see what's going on, what's happened. It really is time to say goodbye. There's the music, TTFN. See you next week. Thank you for listening to the show. I hope that you enjoyed tonight's topics. Whether you listened live, to a recording, or to a rebroadcast, I appreciate the time you share with me. We need to spread the message of liberty far and wide, so please tell your friends and family about the show. Thank you for helping to keep the beacon of hope burning. This is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, signing off. God bless America, and remember, L3, long live liberty.